The listening post at Drenari Sev had not reported anything of value in 200 years. It hung in the cold dark between two dead stars, a barnacle of cooled alloy and humming sensors, kept alive by a single half-mad caretaker named Alan and the patient routines of an old machine spirit. Alan's job was to watch a corridor of space the Solan Dominion had sealed long ago, a graveyard of ruined worlds the Empire pretended did not exist. On the night everything changed, Alan was eating a cold meal of paste and dried fungus when his console chirped once, then twice, then would not stop. He stared at the alert. A ship. Inside the corridor. Alan's three-fingered hand hovered over the override. He laughed first, a thin, brittle sound, because no one came through there. The corridor was salted with debris fields and old gravity mines. Whatever was in his sensors had to be a glitch. He sent a calibration ping. The ping returned with a contact still present. He launched a probe. The probe transmitted clean telemetry for 9 seconds. Then it stopped. Not destroyed. Stopped. The signal simply ended as if someone had reached out and pinched it closed between 2 fingers. Alan's amusement curdled. He filed the report under highest priority, attached every scrap of data he had, and sent it racing up the chain. He did not sleep that night. He sat at his console and watched the contact drift, a single point of light moving in a place where nothing was supposed to move. 3 days later, in the great fortress city of Tharnamer, High Admiral Kansho read the report and almost set it aside. Kansho was a soldier of the old breed. His mantle was heavy with battle honors. His eyes had seen rebellions, pirate kings, and the burning of 3 rogue colonies. He had no patience for ghost stories from frontier posts. He looked at the readings again. The mass profile did not match any known ship frame. The drive's signature was not a signature at all, it was an absence, a hole the size of a vessel moving through space without any of the radiations one expected a starship to emit. No heat bloom, no gravitic wake, no transponder, nothing. And yet it moved. Kansho summoned his analyst, a slender clerk named Isaveth, and watched her chitinous mouthparts open and close in nervous patterns as she studied the file. "It is impossible, Admiral," she whispered. "That is a useless word," he replied. "Find a better one." She tried for an hour. She came back with 3 new useless words. That afternoon, Kansho gave the order to dispatch a flight of corvettes, 6 small, fast warships with veteran crews. He told them to find the contact, hail it, and if it would not respond, escort it back to Imperial custody. He did not say destroy. Kansho had survived 4 decades of war by being patient. He told himself it was a smuggler. He told himself it was a derelict on a slow course. He told himself many things that night. In the small hours, when his office was empty, and the city beyond his windows glittered with the lights of 100 million subjects, he pulled up the contact's projected trajectory one more time. The ship had altered course. It was no longer drifting. It had turned, with intent, onto a heading that aimed deeper into the Dominion, straight toward the populated worlds of the inner shell. Kansho stood very still. The thing in the corridor had decided to come closer. He set his glass down and looked at his reflection in the dark window. For the first time in many years, the High Admiral of the Solan Dominion felt the small, cold thought he had taught himself never to feel. What if I am the wrong man for this? The corvettes were already on their way. Part 2, First Contact, First Loss. Squadron leader Othran had flown 200 intercepts in his career, and he had never lost a wingmate. He intended to keep that record. His 6 corvettes burned through the corridor in a tight diamond formation, their drives painting brief streaks of pale fire as they decelerated toward the contact. The vessel did not match anything in their database. It was long and dark, lean as a fish, with no visible weapon mounts and a hull surface that drank radar like wet sand drinks water. It bore no markings their translators could parse, only a faint scratched symbol near its prow, a circle bisected by a winged shape that none of them recognized. Othrin opened the hailing channel. "Unknown vessel, this is Squadron Leader Othrin of the Solon Imperial Fleet. You have entered restricted space. Power down your drives and prepare for boarding. Failure to comply will be met with force." He waited. He waited longer. There was no reply. The strange ship simply kept its heading, slow and steady, a wolf walking through a pasture. He repeated the hail in 3 more languages. He activated his weapon arrays. He ordered his wingmates to spread into a containment net. The corvettes opened like petals around the dark shape. That was when Othrin's screens died. Not flickered, not glitched, died. His bridge lights remained on. His life support hummed. His own breath was loud in his ears. But every weapon, every targeting system, every offensive subroutine had gone dark, as if some quiet hand had reached inside the ship and pinched out a candle. "Wing 2, he croaked. "Status." "Cannot engage," came the reply. "All firing solutions dissolved. We can see. We cannot shoot." "Wing 3." "Same." One after another, each of his 5 wingmates reported the same impossible failure. They were not destroyed. They were not damaged. They had been disarmed by something they could not see, could not measure, and could not name. The dark vessel passed through their formation like a finger drawn across still water. It did not slow. It did not turn its hull. Its narrow prow simply slid between the corvettes, close enough that Othrin could see fine scoring along its plating, the marks of 1,000 small impacts and ages of travel. His communications officer made a small sound, half sob, half question. "Squadron leader," she said, "there is a message." "Show me." A single line of text appeared in the Imperial trade tongue. The grammar was archaic and a little stiff, like a child reading aloud from an old book. "We are passing through. Please do not stand in front of us." Othrin stared at the line until it blurred. "Open the channel," he said. "Send, identify yourself." There was a pause, then a new line appeared. "We are a survey vessel of the Confederated Worlds of Sol. Our identifier is Black Aurora. We mean no harm to your ships or your crews. We will continue our course." The squadron leader felt the cold creep up his spine before he understood why. Confederated Worlds of Sol. He had never heard the name. No record in the Dominion mentioned it. He composed himself. "Sol vessel, you are violating restricted Imperial space. Reverse course or you will be engaged." A longer pause. "With respect, squadron leader, we did try to ask." The dark ship slid out of the net. It accelerated. There was no flare of drive, no bloom of fire. Its absence in space simply lengthened, the way a shadow lengthens when a lamp is lifted. In 9 breaths it was gone from visual range. In another 9, it had crossed a distance that should have taken a corvette an hour to traverse. Othrin's hands shook on the console. His weapon systems came back online, all at once, as cleanly as if they had never been off. He sent his report. Back in Tharnamer, High Admiral Canshaw read it 3 times. He stood. He walked to the window of his office and looked out across his city of lights. The thing in the corridor had told him its name. It had told him politely. That, more than anything, made him reach for the war alarm. Part 3. The fleet falters. The 8th Battle Group had not been deployed in 22 years. 290 warships, 11 destroyer wings, 4 heavy carriers, and the dreadnought Tulsarakal, an armored mountain that had once shattered a rebel system in a single afternoon. Canshaw took personal command from the dreadnought's flag bridge. He had read every word of Othrin's report. He had watched the recording. He had listened to his analysts try and fail to explain what they had seen. He had then locked them in a room and told them not to come out until they had a theory that did not embarrass him. He had nothing useful to work with, so he brought everything he had. The battle group folded out of jump in a sphere 5 light seconds across, the Tulsa Rakal at its center. Their target hung dead ahead, a single small vessel against a constellation of Imperial steel. Kansho had ordered the standard Imperial doctrine of overwhelming pressure, a closing sphere, layered fire arcs, no exits. "Sol vessel," he transmitted. "This is High Admiral Kansho of the Solan Dominion. You will heave to, you will power down, you will be boarded, you will be treated according to the laws of war. Any other course will result in your destruction." He counted 3 breaths. A reply came in the same stiff Imperial trade tongue. "Admiral, we are still passing through. We do not wish to fight you. Please move your fleet." A captain at his elbow made a noise that might have been a laugh, and was certainly not. "Tighten the sphere," Kansho ordered. The sphere tightened. His ships closed in a smooth, practiced contraction, weapon arcs interlocking, each gunner sighted, each missile keyed, each fighter wing screened. They formed a perfect noose around the small dark vessel. Kansho gave the signal. The noose closed. 290 warships fired into the center of their sphere. The center was empty. Not empty as in the target had been atomized. Empty as in the target was not there. The fire converged on nothing, and the gunners on the far side of the sphere had to throw their shields up against their own crossfire, a thunder of Imperial weaponry crashing through a place where no enemy stood. Where Kansho began. "Admiral, behind us." He turned. The dark vessel was inside the sphere, behind the dreadnought, 300 kilometers off the Tulsa Rakal's stern, drifting at parade speed, as casual as a swimmer crossing a still pool. His weapons would not lock. He gave the order anyway. Fire control reported empty solutions across the board. Targeting systems on every ship within range had been gently, courteously, decisively shut. Yet again, the small ship had reached out and pinched the candle. A new message arrived. "Admiral, we would like to apologize. We did not mean to startle your fleet. We have a guest on board who would like to speak with someone in your government. We do not know your protocol. Could you advise?" Kansho lowered himself into his command chair. His vision narrowed until he could see only the message and the small dark shape on the screen. A guest. He thought of every old story he had ever read as a boy. The clever traveler who walks into a king's hall unarmed. The wolf who eats by being patient. He thought of the corridor of dead worlds the Dominion did not speak of, and the rumors his grandfather had told him in low tones, of older powers that had once moved through this region and left only ash. He thought of his own children. He spoke without looking up. "Open a direct line to the sovereign, now." His communications officer hesitated. "Admiral, protocol requires." "I am the protocol. Open the line." The line opened. While the signal was patched through the layers of Imperial bureaucracy, Kansho composed a single sentence in his head, polished it, and made himself ready to say it aloud to the most dangerous woman in the Empire. He would tell Sovereign Zelindra that the thing in the corridor could not be killed, and that it had asked politely to speak with her. He would not tell her, yet, that he had begun to suspect they had been watched for far longer than anyone had dared imagine. Part 4. The Voice. Sovereign Zelindra of the Solan Dominion had ruled for 41 years. She had inherited a fractious empire and made it walk in step. Her throne room was a chamber of dark stone and pale light, ringed with the standards of conquered worlds, and at its heart sat a high chair carved from a single piece of meteoric iron, polished by the touch of 3 generations of her line. She received Kansho's report standing. She heard him out without interruption. She did not blink when he described the failed sphere. She did not flinch when he repeated the request from the strange vessel. She listened the way a surgeon listens to a wound being described. When he was finished, she said only, "Open the channel." Her ministers protested. Her inquisitor, Vale, hissed objections about contamination and protocol. The High Council demanded a delay. Zelindra silenced them all by lifting one finger. "Open the channel," she repeated. The great display at the head of her hall flickered into life. A face appeared. It was a soft face by imperial standards. The skin was pale brown. The eyes were dark and tired and patient. The hair was cropped short. There was a small scar on one temple and a faint line of stubble along the jaw. The being wore a simple gray uniform with no medals, no rank insignia, no decoration save for the same small symbol the corvettes had seen on the hull, a circle bisected by a winged shape. "Sovereign," he said. He inclined his head a careful, respectful measure. "I am Captain Adrian Voss of the survey vessel Black Aurora. Thank you for receiving my hail." A murmur ran through the throne room. Zelindra did not move. "Captain Voss," she said. Her voice filled the hall like cold water filling a basin. "You have driven my fleet onto its knees and you greet me as if we are merchants. Explain yourself." A small, tired smile touched the human's mouth. He did not show his teeth. "I have driven nothing onto its knees, Sovereign. Your fleet is intact. Every crew member is alive and unharmed. We disabled targeting because we did not wish to be shot at. We took no other action. If we had wished your ship's harm, we would not be having this conversation." "You admit, then, that you possess the power to harm?" "I admit, Sovereign, that we are capable of defending ourselves." He paused. "We did not come here to threaten you. We were charting old transit routes. We did not know this region was claimed. Our maps are older than your borders." The Inquisitor Vale surged forward in his black robes, his long jaw clicking. "Lies, there is no civilization beyond our reach. We would know." Voss looked at him with that same tired patience. "Inquisitor," he said softly, "you did not know about us yesterday. You know about us today. Tomorrow you will know more. That is how learning works." Vale's clicking grew louder. Zelindra silenced him with another finger. "Captain," she said, "tell me what you want." "To leave," Voss replied at once. "To finish our survey and return home. To never again disturb your space. We will gladly trade our maps of the corridor in exchange for safe passage out." "And if I refuse?" He considered the question for a long moment. He did not seem afraid. He did not seem angry. He seemed, more than anything, sad. "Then we will leave anyway, Sovereign, and our report will not be a friendly one. I would much rather it be friendly." The throne room held its breath. Zelindra studied him as a hawk studies a small movement in tall grass. She had spent her life learning to read other beings, and what she read in this one was very strange. He was not lying. He was not posturing. He was simply telling her the truth of his situation as he understood it. She had, in her long reign, met three kinds of dangerous men: those who knew they were dangerous and enjoyed it, those who knew they were dangerous and were ashamed of it, and those who did not know they were dangerous at all. Voss did not fit any of the three. He knew exactly how dangerous he was. He simply did not want to be. It was, she realized, the most frightening combination she had ever encountered. She opened her mouth to answer him. The alarm klaxons began to scream. Part 5: The Hawk Strike. Inquisitor Vale had not waited for permission. He had not waited at all. While the Sovereign spoke with the alien in her hall, Vale's personal squadron, the Black Lance, 12 ships fanatically loyal to him and to no one else, had broken from formation and burned at full thrust toward the Black Aurora. They were armed with the Inquisition's forbidden weapon, phase lances, drawn from old vaults and never used in open war, weapons the Sovereign herself had forbidden 3 decades ago for fear of what they could do. The Black Lance opened fire from outside Kancho's containment sphere, 12 beams of pale violet light spearing through space toward the small dark vessel. In Zelindra's hall, Every screen split into 1,000 panels. She saw the beams. She saw the small dark ship. She did not see it move. But the beams struck nothing. They simply passed through the place where the black aurora had been and continued on, harmless, into empty space. The ship was already elsewhere, 40,000 kilometers away, then 80, then back, a stutter of position so fast the Imperial sensors could not draw a line between the points. On the screen, Captain Voss closed his eyes. His tired patience hardened very briefly into something else. It was not rage. It was disappointment, and it cut Zelindra more sharply than rage would have. "Sovereign," he said, "please call them off." "Vale," Zelindra hissed into her open channel. "Stand down on my authority. Stand down." There was no answer from the Black Lance. Their channels were closed. Vale, watching from his own flagship, ordered a second salvo, then a third. Each volley struck nothing. Each volley passed through a vessel that was no longer there. Voss spoke quietly, as though to himself. "Archive," he said. "Show them." In the throne room, the Imperial screens went blank. Then they showed the Black Lance. 12 ships displayed with crystal clarity. Their weapons remained powered. Their drives remained burning. But around each ship a thin lattice of silver light had appeared, a delicate web that looked like frost on glass. It was not violent. It did not crush them. It simply gently was there. Then, one ship at a time, the Black Lance came to a stop. Not destroyed, stopped. Their drives shut off in perfect unison. Their weapons powered down. Their crews remained alive, vital signs steady, lights still burning. But they could no longer move. They could no longer fire. They could no longer even open a channel to scream. Vale's flagship was the last to fall still. The Inquisitor's image appeared on Zelindra's display, his black robes trembling. His mouth opened. His mouth closed. He could not speak. He could not move his arms. He could only stare, conscious and helpless, a black insect pinned to a board. In the throne room, the Imperial ministers were silent. Voss turned back to the Sovereign. "Sovereign," he said, his voice was soft. He sounded apologetic. "I did not want to do that. I am very sorry. They will recover, all of them, in approximately 4 hours. No one is hurt." Zelindra did not answer at once. She looked at Vale, frozen on her screen. She had loathed him for years. She had also feared him because he commanded the loyalty of a dangerous priesthood. He had defied her in front of an entity she did not understand. And the entity had pinned him like a beetle, while still apologizing. She felt in her chest the precise small weight that ruling beings learn to carry. The knowledge that the world had shifted, and that everything she did in the next minutes would be remembered for centuries. "Captain Voss," she said, her voice did not shake, "how many ships do you have?" He looked at her. He weighed something behind his tired eyes. "Sovereign," he said, "may I show you a map?" "Show me." The throne room display flickered. A map appeared. It was a map of her empire. Every world, every station, every fleet base, every restricted corridor, including the dead worlds in Drenari Sev that no sovereign had spoken of in 3 reigns. It was accurate. It was current. It was annotated in a careful, neat script, with notations Zelindra did not at first understand. Then she did. Patrol patterns, fleet rotations, supply chains, the personal travel routes of her admirals, the location to the meter of her own private retreat on a moon her people had been told did not exist. The map was not a threat, it was a record. The black aurora had not been startled into her space. It had been studying her space. For a long time. Zelindra lifted her gaze from the map to the captain's face. "How long," she said very quietly, "have you been watching us?" Voss did not answer at once. When he finally spoke, his voice was almost gentle. "Sovereign," he said, "my ship has been in this region for 40 years. There are 6 other ships like mine. We have been very patient. Part 6. The Reveal. The silence that followed was not the silence of a hall going still. It was the silence of an entire civilization noticing, all at once, that its ground had moved. Sovereign Zelindra remained seated. She had been trained from childhood never to show shock. She did not show it now. But her hands, hidden in the folds of her sleeves, closed once, very tight, and then opened again. 6 other ships, she repeated. In this region, Voss said. I cannot speak for what is elsewhere. I do not have that clearance. Show me your home. He hesitated. Sovereign, I would prefer. Captain, show me. Voss exhaled. He looked away briefly as if consulting with someone she could not see. Then he nodded. The map of her empire shrank. It became a small bright cluster in the corner of the display. The view pulled back and back and back, and as it pulled back more clusters appeared. Some were small, some were vast. Each was labeled with names she did not recognize. The view kept pulling back. A great spiral of human presence resolved on the display. Not a continuous empire, not a single state. A scattering of confederations, leagues, free worlds, alliances, all wound through a section of the galaxy that her own astronomers had pronounced empty of intelligent life. The view stopped on a single yellow star. A small world circled it. Sol, Voss said softly, that is my home star. The world is Earth. The Confederated Worlds of Sol is the federation that maintains our survey fleet. We are one of 9 human polities. We are neither the largest nor the most ambitious. We are simply the most curious. Zelindra looked at the small yellow star. She looked at the wider spiral. She looked at the tiny annotation that marked her own empire, which appeared on the scale as a pinprick. And your fleet, she said, your true fleet. Sovereign, I am a survey captain. My ship is one of the older models. We were not built for war. The vessels that were built for war do not look like mine and do not behave like mine. I have never been aboard one. I have only seen the schematics. How many? He did not pretend to misunderstand. In the Confederated Worlds alone, he said, 2,403 of the line, more in the auxiliary. The hall did not erupt. The ministers were too stunned to erupt. The murmur that ran through the chamber was quieter than that and more dangerous, the sound of small people remembering all at once that they were small. Zelindra closed her eyes. She thought of her grandfather who had told her once, when she was a child, that the most important question a ruler could ask was not how strong am I, it was who is stronger than me, and what do they want. She had asked the first question for 41 years. She had never had cause to ask the second. She opened her eyes. Captain Voss, she said, why are you telling me this? He looked at her, and for a moment the tired sadness in his face deepened into something that was almost compassion. Because, Sovereign, he said, we have watched your empire for 40 years. We have watched your wars. We have watched your peace. We have watched your Inquisition burn worlds you do not speak of. He paused. And we have not interfered, not once. We did not want to be the kind of people who choose for others. And now, he said, you have seen me. Now your fleet has seen me. Now I cannot pretend any longer that you do not know. So I would rather you knew the truth than learned it from rumor. And if I refuse to deal with you, then we will go, he said, and we will not return. And in time, perhaps a generation, perhaps 3, your empire will discover us another way. I do not think it will be a kinder way. Zelindra was quiet for a long time. Then she rose from her iron throne. It was a small motion. The ministers had never seen her do it during a council. The hall reacted as if a tower had moved. She walked down the 3 shallow steps of the dais. She stopped at the foot of them, where ambassadors stood, where supplicants knelt, where her own people approached her on equal ground. She looked up at the screen. Captain Voss, she said, stand by, I must speak with my council. He inclined his head. Of course, Sovereign. The screen went dark. Zelindra turned. In the back of her hall, Inquisitor Vale's deputies had quietly drawn their ceremonial blades. 3 of her admirals had stepped close to one another, conferring. The Minister of Trade was openly weeping. The Minister of War was openly smiling. Her empire was about to crack. She had perhaps 10 minutes before someone in her own hall tried to kill her. She would need every one of them. Part 7. The Choice. Sovereign Zelindra did not sit again. She stood at the foot of her own throne and let her ministers look at her. She let them see that she had stepped off the iron. She let them see that she had chosen, with her body, the ground of those who had to be persuaded rather than the ground of those who only had to be obeyed. It was the most dangerous thing she had ever done. "Admirals," she said, her voice carried, "bring your fleets to standby. Recall the Black Lance. Place Vale's officers under arrest the moment they recover. Any commander who fires without my direct order will be considered in revolt against the throne." 2 admirals saluted at once. A third hesitated. He was an old man with old loyalties to the Inquisition. He looked at the others. He looked at the screen, dark now, where a human face had recently sat. He looked at his sovereign. He saluted. "Ministers," she continued, "you have heard everything the captain said. You have seen the map. You are wondering, all of you, whether the human spoke the truth." A murmur of assent. "He did," she said. "I know it, you know it. The map is too detailed to be a forgery. The lattice that pinned the Black Lance is too elegant to be a trick. We have been watched, we are watched still, and we have a choice." She let them feel the word. "We can refuse," she said. "We can drive the Black Aurora from our space. We can pretend to ourselves that nothing has changed. We can spend the next generation building walls, training fleets, hoarding weapons. And one day, perhaps in my lifetime, perhaps in my granddaughter's, we will discover that the walls did not matter, the fleets did not matter, the weapons did not matter." She paused. "Or we can speak to them." The Minister of War stepped forward. He was a small, hard man named Athek. He had argued for war with everyone, on every issue, for 30 years. "Sovereign," he said, "if we speak to them, we admit weakness." "Minister," she replied, "if we do not speak to them, we admit ignorance. I prefer the first." Athek bowed his head. Zelindra turned to her communications officer. "Open the channel." The screen lit. Voss was there exactly as he had been. "Captain," she said, "I have made my decision." He waited. "You will withdraw your vessel from the restricted corridor. You will provide a single, accurate map of your survey routes, so my fleet does not stumble upon you in error. In exchange, I will dispatch an envoy to a neutral point of your choosing. We will speak. We will speak about borders. We will speak about trade. We will speak about what kind of neighbors we intend to be." Voss bowed his head, deeper this time. "Sovereign," he said, "on behalf of the Confederated Worlds of Sol, I accept your terms. There is one more condition." "Name it." "You will not interfere with the internal affairs of my empire. You have watched us for 40 years. You will give me 40 years to set my own house in order. After that, you may judge me as you wish. Not before." A small, real smile crossed the human's face, not a baring of teeth, a softening. "Sovereign," he said, "we did not interfere when we were invisible. We will not interfere now that we are seen. You have my word and the word of my federation behind it." "Then we are agreed." "We are agreed." The screen darkened. Zelindra stood at the foot of her throne and looked up at the iron. Her ministers watched her. Her admirals waited. Inquisitor Vale, still frozen in his flagship's bridge, would wake in 3 hours to find his order broken and his sovereign waiting for him with a writ of treason. She did not climb back onto the throne yet. There was work to do on the ground where her people stood. There were riots to prepare for in the temple districts. There were old laws to repeal. There was an empire to teach, gently and quickly, that it was no longer alone. She thought briefly of the small dark vessel sliding out of her space, of the tired man with the patient eyes, of a yellow star she had never heard of until that morning. She thought of her grandfather's question. Who is stronger than me, and what do they want? It turned out that what they wanted was, of all things, a conversation. She drew a long breath, the longest she had drawn in 41 years, and began the work of saving her empire from itself. Far out in the corridor of dead worlds, the black Aurora turned its narrow prow toward home. Captain Adrian Voss stood at his viewport and watched the Imperial fleet recede behind him. He did not smile. He did not sigh. He simply rested his hand against the cool plating of his ship and spoke softly, to no one and to the universe at large. "One more," he said. "One more empire that chose the better road." Behind him, his crew worked in quiet rhythm. Ahead of him the stars opened, and the long way home began.